Well, welcome to another episode of The Art of Feminine Negotiation. I'm your host, Cindy Watson, and I am really looking forward to our interview today. Excited to introduce you to Tricia Benn. We're going to be talking about negotiating as a female CEO and beyond. And I hate that we even have to qualify to talk about it being a female CEO, but a lot of what we're going to be talking about is, how far we've come, but how far we still have to go in some ways on this front. So welcome, Tricia. It's so great to have you here.
Cindy, I am so thrilled to be here with you in so many ways. And if nothing else, a great excuse to actually spend time together and then create some meaningful conversations as well.
I love it. And for our listeners out there, don't you just love her voice already? Does Tricia not have the richest voice that you have ever heard? So sultry and commanding at the same time, the perfect combination of feminine strength. And for those of you who don't know Tricia, she is the Chief Executive Officer of C-Suite Network, the most influential network of business leaders. She's also the General Manager of the Hero Club, which is an invitation-only membership organization for CEOs, founders, and investors. And she truly is a leader in creating an executive community where she promotes collaboration that's based on integrity and transparency and being able to measure success beyond just the numbers alone. So you will find out very shortly why I love Tricia so much. So why don't we dig right in, Tricia? You are currently the CEO of C-Suite, and you've held senior executive positions with other companies as well, driving double-digit growth year after year everywhere you go. So tell us a little bit about your experience as a woman in that sort of C-Suite and corporate world.
There is so much to unpack here. I wanted to jump in right away, and I'm so sorry I kind of interrupted. But when you said my voice, it brought back the memory of being a woman in a male-dominated space. And I'll never forget the very first time I listened to my voice. And it was this high-pitched, ear-aching voice. And I couldn't believe that it was mine. and to the credit of my master's degree, our professors had us record our voices and then play them back. And so that's something where my voice and the pitch in my voice has deepened so much with time and also usage. COVID, I could literally hear my voice coming down because of the use. I am on, as you well know, 12 to 16 hours a day. I am speaking and hosting and in meetings. And so, it's so interesting. That is huge for a woman leader.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you mentioned that, because I know we hear about, sort of Margaret Thatcher sort of deepening her voice. And part of it, it's not just that, although that is certainly a part of it, but it's also women tend to raise the inflection at the end of their sentences, which makes it sound like we're asking questions, like we're constantly asking for permission. So I agree with you. And I think that's a great message for everybody listening out there. Be intentional about the timbre of your voice. Tricia has that really rich timbre that's beautifully commanding as well, that can command authority in a room when she needs it without having to shriek or be accused of having that sort of shrieky approach. So I'd love to hear a bit, other than the voice, about your experience. Like, have you found gender differences in either how you're received or, the impact on how you show up, I guess, at the other end?
There is, without a doubt, difference, and it's just so interesting to even think about it. In fact, I seldom talk about this, but my degree was in sociology and anthropology, and I had a minor in women's studies, Cindy.
I did not know that.
Yes, and the irony of my experience is that my mother was my original business mentor, so to speak, or at least the person who taught me what it was to create great teams and expectations like I will always make things better for the people that follow. And it's not people who follow me, but generationally, we're not creating a scenario where we make people go through what we had to go through to get there, and I think that's a trap that generations can fall into, where it's, you shouldn't expect this, and I've never been a believer in that. And my mom is the one who really taught me that from the beginning, because she was a global leader in her space. She took on very tough issues and included the exact people that she was supposed to be at odds with in everything she did. She spoke at the event. She was incredible. My mom was such a powerful role model, to the point where I didn't get the memo. I didn't understand that it was supposed to be a man's world.
Yeah.
And so I literally, I took women's studies because I couldn't understand. What do you mean?
How is this an issue?
I literally had no clue. And so my ignorance was extensive. And I was also raised on a farm. And so when you're raised on a farm, and then I became a competitive figure skater.
Okay.
In
Interesting.
both of those things, you deliver it, nothing else matters. So, I joke now, when you're raised on a farm, there are only 3 states of being, right? So, and spoiler alert, the first one is the only one you want: useful. Number one, useful. You've got to survive. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter, tall, short,
Yeah.
old, young, male, female, nothing matters. It's just
Oh.
that you have food for your animals, your garden is in, and you're able to eat and get through the winter.
Yeah.
And so useful, then there's dead, and then there's useful dead. And those are the only 3 states of being, and then with figure skating, you fall and fall and fall and fall until you fall less. There is no not falling, or somehow the ice gets softer, the boards get softer, the blades get duller. This isn't what happens. So the preciousness is just not there. It's like, let's get in, we've got a mission to deliver on. So first and foremost, I would say, don't accept the memo, no matter whatever your difference is, right? Don't accept that memo. Your job is to create meaningful difference. How do you create success? How do you deliver on the mission that you've committed to? How do you create the space that others can join in your mission and see success through that, and meaning and connection and all of that? And that's where you get really great business, really great relationships.
Oh, I love that. And I just want to unpack that before we go on with that. I think there's so much there. And I love that I didn't get the memo. I often speak about the fact that I grew up in a household where, we came from a low rental sort of apartment complex. So I didn't have a leg up that way, but I didn't realize until later in life what a gift my dad gave me, because we had spirited debates growing up at the dinner table. And it never crossed my mind that my voice wouldn't matter. I mean, I showed up later in life, always just sort of pushing in to make sure my voice was heard, because it was a given, which is a gorgeous gift. So for those of you who haven't had that opportunity or gift in life, raising your awareness about it is a big step forward, about knowing that your voice matters. And my next book is actually called Myth of a Man's World. I started to write that book before Art of Feminine Negotiation, and I'm coming back to it now. And I want to just circle back and put a pin in something that you said about, you didn't get it. Why? In terms of, if I didn't get it, they couldn't have it, that kind of mentality. Like, I have seen that over and over again, where women don't support other women. Once they've crashed through that glass ceiling, and instead of lifting a hand down to lift them up, they call in a professional glazier and sort of glaze it over again, right? That it's like, well, I didn't get mat leave, so why should they? What has been your experience about that? And what do you have to say about that?
I will say, first and foremost, I always come from a place of gratitude and understanding. Yeah. Those women that broke through for us, they battled things that we would think so unreasonable now, that we would be absolutely mortified. I mean, absolutely horrified, right? Yeah. So gratitude and understanding is where I come from with that. It makes it no less true, right? So that's absolutely true. And Cindy, our generation, we're the ones who came right after that. So we were the ones that were shut out even harder, because there really was only one place for one woman to be in that inner circle, or that upper level, whatever that level was. And so, it's our generation that really has to set in, wait a second, now we need to make sure that we're opening those doors, that we're creating support, that we're seeing success. And that doesn't mean to shut out men or anybody, it's literally just creating that opportunity of our job as we lead through and get to those upper levels of decision making, or we own our own businesses and are delivering success that way, whatever it is, that we're creating opportunity. That's where we get to greater success. And so, I think there's a big mistake, women have done that. I think there was a big mistake of 20 years of blaming millennials for everything that happened in our
That's so true.
I have been against that from day one. I happen to, I spent nearly 20 years in the market research and insights industry, building businesses, scaling businesses in enterprise-sized organizations. And I did the benchmark study of benefits in, employee benefits. And right from the very beginning, and this is now 25 plus years ago now, And right from the very beginning, I could see that millennials just wanted the same things we wanted, which is they wanted to make a difference. They wanted to be heard. They wanted to be respected. They wanted to be appreciated for what they could deliver that would actually mean something to people, not sit around patting each other on the back and being self-important. They wanted to be having real impact. All those things are amazing, and we should have credited them for that. And also, they had a different perspective. They came from a swipe culture, right? Or at least computer, where we didn't. So now you're getting different ways of solving problems faster, more affordably. There's just so much there. So I think we've got some real wrongs to correct, and we need to really share that abundance mentality of we create success that only engenders more.
I love that. It's funny you said that. That's exactly what I was going to come back with as well. That fixed pie versus that abundance mindset, right? Makes such a difference. And I again, I love that you say about coming from that place of grace and gratitude for it. And I think there is a real misconception that because it was so hard to break through, we need to protect that turf, as opposed to the more we share, a rising tide lifting all boats, the more opportunities there are for everyone. So how do you handle if you find gender differences in how you're received, or has that even been an issue for you?
I think anybody who says it hasn't been an issue is either completely unaware of themselves and others, or wanting to tell a nice story. I mean, the fact of the matter is, we're all interpreted, and there's a lot of noise. I'm reading a great book right now called Noise, and I'd highly recommend it. There's just so much going on. There's subcontext on every level, to the point where they actually have data that proves that if you go to court on the day of your birthday, you'll get a lighter sentence.
Oh, wow.
Even better still, Cindy, I know, with your legal background, even better still, if your home team won the football game that weekend, you are likely to get a lighter sentencing. Statistically. So noise is real. That's just the way it is. And there's a ton of research to look at gender bias. So my whole approach from day one, and I will admit, but I think at the end of the day, understanding the impact you're having and really focusing on the outcome you're getting to. If you get trapped in your ego, you will be pulled down in it. So you've got to really focus on what is the outcome you're seeking, and who and what do you have at your disposal to make sure you're getting to the right outcome. It's not my job to fix people. It's not my job to prove that women can do anything that men can do. That's not my job. My job is, in my mission in terms of C-Suite Network, for example, is to build and scale a platform that sees great values-based leaders succeeding, right? Business, not-for-profit, our investors, our influencers. I need to be building that platform to see them succeed. I am not going to let my ego or how people react to me, whether I'm a woman, man, or anything else they want to think about me in terms of where I'm going and my outcomes and how I want to serve, how I've chosen to serve on that mission.
Gorgeous. And for our listeners or viewers out there, I can attest, I have had the pleasure of watching Tricia in action in the C-Suite, which is a fabulous organization, and she is masterful at that. And boy, are you speaking my language, Tricia, about outcome-based. I can't tell you, even in my legal career over 30 years, seeing great deals right there on the table that people miss because they are so focused on, as you say, their ego, or total lack of flexibility about their perceived outcome when there's a better outcome sitting right there.
I love that. I had a piece of wisdom given to me by Arjun Sen, and I'll never forget this. He said, when you reach that scenario, and sometimes those little tiny practical tools are so powerful. And he said to me, what if you ask, what is the outcome you're seeking? And oh my goodness, that changes the dynamic entirely. It's just a simple little tool. And for anyone listening, when I get a piece of just a little tool like that, and you think, oh my gosh, that's brilliant, and you use it and it solves a problem, I put a little note on my monitor here, so it reminds me until I remember to use it regularly, because those are the kinds of tools that just help you go to instead of reacting, right? So you're going to something productive to get where you're trying to go. as opposed to getting caught up in a whirlwind that's completely counterproductive.
And that is a golden tip for our listeners out there. Like when you find a cue or you learn some skill, and it's usually just a simple question, like the power of questions in a negotiation. When you get one, like the one Tricia just handed up for you there, what is the outcome that you're seeing? Put that in your pocket and save those so that you've got them in your pocket, and it keeps you out of reactivity, as Tricia said. That's such beautiful advice.
Well, Cindy, as soon as you tap into emotion, and here's an interesting thing too, women get sort of pigeonholed into this emotion space. But when a man or an alpha male gets trapped into the emotion space, that's it. The deal is really at risk.
Yes.
So, those go-tos that you don't even have to think and you can redirect are really powerful, not just for yourself, but certainly for your team as well.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. And it's fun when you said that about that alpha male getting there. I think our tendency when we're facing that is to jump back. And I love the idea. To me, there's pure gold there. When you hit that, lean in and get curious. Don't double down on your position, but start asking questions like, oh, I noticed that's caused quite a reaction. Can you tell me about that? Or what have I done or said? Like lean in and ask questions can totally change that dynamic. Now, listening to you, Tricia, it's obvious, like, I love that you bring such passion to the table and you have this incredibly measured sort of calm about you. So I'd love if you could describe your negotiating style and what advice you have for people about negotiation style when they're trying to get a best outcome.
For me, it is a constant seeking of what is the best outcome for the person I'm negotiating with, to the point now where, and I think, Cindy, you've heard me say this, last year at the end of December and all through January, I said, I am choosing to work with people I can know, love, trust.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean that I know, love, trust them all at the same level or in the same way. Obviously, we love our family in a different way, maybe, or I don't know. Sometimes I think not. Your work family is your family too. So it's where you choose to spend time. So anyway, but know, love, trust means that I really truly am negotiating first on behalf of the person I'm negotiating with.
Yeah, I love that.
And then ensuring that I'm landing in a place that gets me to where I know it's a successful outcome for me and everyone I serve as well. So if you're not focused on the win of the person you're negotiating with, you've already lost. It might take a while for you to figure that out. It might be a day, a week, a month, a year, 10 years, but inevitably, if you haven't focused on the win, then it won't work one way or another, and you'll have wasted that time. You'll lose that relationship. There's so many things that are such a negative of not first focusing on what is that successful outcome. And I'm constantly checking in with myself, with the person that I'm negotiating with, where are we with this, and am I landing in a place that makes sense? And then also as a CEO, I have a chairman that I need to be accountable to and put my support behind where we land on, larger or investing and negotiations and so on. So I'm very mindful to what does that look like and where do I stand, even in the circumstance where my chairman may say he's ready to go and I'm saying my advice is no.
Yeah.
And, for these reasons. So it's just so critical to be thinking to what is that success and how do you see that fulfilled over time?
And I really want to put a pin in that for our listeners. That is such powerful advice that you just got right there. That is like taking the heart of my book in a nutshell. You just so beautifully said that, because I think it's one of the areas where we most fall down. We are so conditioned to see negotiation based on that old school positional bargaining, right? Where it's like, I want X and you want Y, and I'm going to keep fighting for X. And we believe that's a definition of success when the opposite is true. When we can flip that focus to make the other person's needs a priority in the negotiation for us, that is pure gold. That was gorgeous, Tricia. Thank you for that.
Cindy, you win the battle and lose the war, right?
Yeah.
And I love what you said about, we're speaking each other's love language, because I have to say, when I read your book and went through the workbook, it's oh my goodness, are we on the same page? And this is what, I'm living in the everyday, because we have hundreds and thousands of members, tens of thousands that are downloading our content. We have 50 million downloads on our podcast platform. I mean, there's so much interaction. And so this I am living out every day, and I know it to be true in every way, shape, or form, as well as what success is. And you and I haven't talked about that yet, but I know you and I share a very similar approach to what is success. If you're letting others define it, you literally will fail and it's guaranteed.
Yeah. Yeah. So important. That's one of my big missions, like you. It's like redefining success. We've become so task driven and money driven and forgot a lot of the important things in life. I think it's beautiful. And you juggle so many. I mean, you mentioned just a few here, but any given time you're dealing with multi-million dollar sort of transactions. You're wearing multiple hats. You're juggling a ton of balls in the air. And we talked a little bit about that, bringing empathy to the table, like looking for the win for the other side. What other advantages do you see in bringing, so-called feminine traits? And I think we're getting away from that language, but I think it's language people still understand. So what other advantages to bringing so-called feminine traits or energy to the table do you see in getting those better outcomes?
Here's a word that, you and I would have been mortified to hear in the workplace, and anyone else that's, in our generation or older: love.
Yeah.
I think for women to be able to say, I genuinely care, there is an extra piece there where people will naturally feel that or believe that, or it sits in authenticity, assuming you're not doing things that demonstrate the opposite.
Yeah.
There are catches with that. I think probably much like you, Cindy, I am a tough love mom.
Yeah.
I love you to death. This will not work. We need to get, we need to move this forward,
Yeah.
but I think the idea of genuinely caring for your people, and I use teams to mean,
Yeah.
it could be your work teams, could be your whole division, could be your whole company, could be your church, could be your family, could be your friend group, whatever it is, your mastermind group, whatever it is, your team is there and supporting.
Yeah, that's gorgeous. And what is your choice? What is either one of the toughest negotiations that you can think of, or maybe one of the most fun negotiations you've ever had?
Any negotiation. So I'm going to give you the classic stereotypical female answer. And I apologize to everybody, you, Cindy, and everyone who's listening. Anything that's negotiating for myself,
Yeah.
oh my goodness, and so here is my tip for that.
Love that.
The place that I put myself in every single minute is what my mission is and who I'm promised to serve to and deliver success for. So anything that has to do with my personal negotiation, like for things for myself, I am terrible, and I have to put it in the framework of how it will serve others. I'll give you a great example. I have a book that is nearly finished. I have a podcast TV show. The only time I can dedicate to those is truly in understanding that that is very simply following my own medicine of what I share with thought leaders across our platform, right? If you're creating content, you need to figure out how you're going to multi-purpose it and create value for the people you serve. So C-Suite Success with Tricia Benn is a podcast TV show that means that I can deliver success. You are a C-Suite success. Cindy, I have to have you on the show. So you are a C-Suite success. So I'm using that to elevate and showcase. I am creating an opportunity where when I do those interviews where I'm bringing somebody that the whole community doesn't necessarily get to interact with, and I'm just delighted to be able to introduce these tremendous, business people, but rock stars, pro athletes, founders that, I work with that have had unbelievable success, and introduce, because, they're interacting in other parts of the C-suite ecosystem and not everybody gets to meet them. So that delights me. I love being able to do that. So and I know lots of relationships have happened, businesses have started, connections have been made. So that's the way that I get around that, because that's a chink.
I love that. And you are masterful, I must say, at elevating other people. And I think that's a real skill in negotiation that we don't do enough, right? And especially if you're dealing with tough personalities, being able to elevate the other person, even and especially when you disagree with them, can be a really valuable skill. So
the thing I think is really important about that, because I agree, I don't think that happens enough, but when we're negotiating, if we're elevating, not at our expense, that's
yes,
that's
good point.
the really important catch on that. If we're elevating, we're showing that as we come into this relationship, we're going to be lifting. And today, that's really truly the power that you have, is that you're going to be additive, that you're going to be a trusted avenue of great things, whatever that is. You can't own anyone today. And I think that's another real pitfall, is I'll negotiate, I'll own that relationship, I'll own that client, I'll own that whatever. No, you don't own anything with anybody ever. No matter how much money they've given you, no matter how close you are, you do not own them. They have a whole world that they can access outside of you. And so you become very important, you become trusted, you become, a resource that is a go-to. And that's the most powerful, most exciting, most fulfilling position to be in. And also means you can have real impact, creating real business success.
Oh, so valuable. And I mean, it creates trust, and that's the foundation, right? Whereas that the old school thinking about getting the win over the other person as opposed to with the other person breaks that trust, breaks the relationship going forward, and then you're never going to be able to achieve those ongoing best outcomes. It's just such a short-sighted view. And I'd love you have really impressed me with your creativity. I'd love your thoughts on what role creativity plays in getting best outcomes in a negotiation.
It is so important. And this is, again, why diversity is so important.
Yeah, that's true.
Not one of us has all the answers. And when you can pull on the strength of diverse perspectives and don't assume another person's position either, I think frequently we paint a brush and we decide, oh, that's that, and we're not thinking to the fact that everybody has felt, they were the last one picked, they failed at something, they were left out, they, whatever, they were wrongly judged. We all have that kind of experience to be able to draw on a commonality or understanding of both not wanting to feel like that, wanting to feel part of something that's important, and being, valued on a team to deliver. And so I think we need to be drawing on that diversity to come up with those creative ideas that just wouldn't have occurred. And then as soon as you get those ideas thrown in, you can start riffing on, okay, that's great. But you have to really get over, especially as a leader, get over the idea that you have the best idea. That's not your job. That's not your job. Your job is to create an environment where your team is stepping up and creating ideas and riffing with each other and moving things forward. And I like to think of it as, if your team can get things 90 to 95% of the way there, your real value as the senior decision maker, or whatever your title is, to get it that next 5 to 10%. Yeah. That's where you have to add your value. Otherwise, you are absolutely bottlenecking and slowing down your team from the success that you could be seeing in your business.
Oh, so many gems buried in there, Tricia. My goodness, right? About that diversity piece. And also, it reminds me, I was talking to somebody on Tuesday, and they had said that when you show up for something, just assume you know nothing, right? We are so wedded. Our sense of identity is so tied to being the one who knows. And I love that you tied that to that leadership, that it's not your job to be the one who's always right, to always know. And imagine what a difference it is, as you say, showing up, assuming you don't know. So we are open. We come as blank slates, being totally open to really get those creative juices bouncing. When we come so wedded to our position, there's no room for creative solutions. I think that's such a beautiful approach. Who are some of your favorite role models?
Oh my goodness. Do you know, I always find this question a catch-22. when people are asked this kind of question, they vie for like the most famous person or the most famous person they know, or they'll say, so and so is my mentor. Meanwhile, they read their book a couple
Yeah,
times,
it's so
whatever it is.
true.
I tell you what, I truly value and listen and celebrate everyone that I get to work with that carries that mission of delivering impact, of seeing better things for the people they serve, and creating. And in my case, I love business. I did everything I could to avoid a business degree. I thought it was selfish, whatever. And then I realized, wait a second, this is the most sustainable model for creating meaningful impact that you could possibly have. And the rules of the game are you have to be profitable in order to create success. Right. Yeah. And then that means that you have bigger and bigger teams that are, again, able to give back to their communities, serve and succeed. And so to me, it's just the most brilliant, beautiful thing. And we have the opportunity to see that exceptional mentoring in everyone we care about and, serve with, serve for, serve to. And so if I mentioned one, I'd have to mention thousands. And just a quick funny story. Very early on in my leadership in C-Suite Network, I actually came on board right at the very beginning of C-Suite Network as the first paying sponsor. I was a global CMO and a $3 billion holding company, and I had P&L responsibilities for one of our New York businesses, came on board. And I was interviewed, after I'd come on board, about the Hero Club. And the journalist said to me, so at the very end, who would you like to have breakfast or dinner with if you could have it with anybody? And I said, well, I'd love to have breakfast or lunch, dinner, whatever, with any one of my Hero Club leaders. And we only had Hero Club at that point, right? That was our first membership. And she said, no, excuse me, I don't think you heard me. I don't think you understood the question. That's what she said to me. And I said, no, I understand the question. And I understand there are incredible people who've left all kinds of amazing literature and art and political winnings and war battles. And I get it. There are exceptional people out there. But the thing I don't know about them is whether they actually did it, whether I'd actually enjoy the time versus hero leaders that I love and I cannot get enough time with. I don't get enough time with, and I really value that time. And so anyway, so it's a catch-22 for me, Cindy. That's the easiest.
I have never heard that answer. And oh my gosh, you just reframed everything. I love that answer, Tricia. And as you were speaking through it, I'm thinking, imagine what a different world it would be if we all showed up with that love and respect and curiosity about the other people that we meet in our life. Rather, we are such a celebrity-driven society. I think your answer was super powerful. Just beautiful. And I know I can't believe how fast our time is going. I could just talk with you for hours about this. Your answers are so fabulous. It's great. And I'm mindful of your time because I know you've got something coming up at top of the hour. Two quick questions. One, fear, I think, often holds women back, and we haven't really talked about that. I'd love if you could share sort of what your fear factor is or was, and how you dealt with it.
So I love this topic, Cindy, and I am so all over this right now. Preciousness, courage, fear. So to me, fear typically gets into some kind of fear of failure, right? And you can say fear of perfection, fear of getting there, whatever. It's still fear of failure. So fear of failure. And COVID really brought that out, this very palpable feeling of a fear of failure. And to me, it's so self-absorbed, so I really, the way that I position that is, so what? And I actually think that might be my next book. So what?
I love that.
So what? You bruised your knee. Okay. It means you tried something meaningful, and I use my figure skating analogy. You fall and fall and fall till you fall some more. It's not you don't fall anymore. You fell because you're trying something new to get to some greater level. And so, the fear piece and the fear of failure, I feel I want to really seriously redefine that. Failure is sitting in what doesn't work and not getting your butt back up and delivering on the mission that you've committed yourself to. And so to me, it's really holding ourselves accountable and giving ourselves the tough love. There's grace. None of us succeed in every moment. If somebody makes you feel like their world is like, sunshine and roses 24 hours a day, they're lying, they're lying to themselves, they're lying to you, maybe both, I don't know, but like that's not the way the world works. But it's that toughness. It's like getting through those tough moments where you say, I've got a mission that's more important than I bruised my knee. I bruised my knee, okay. So that's, for me, it is so important. And the courage to say, I will not be a cog in the wheel. I'll never forget. I can't remember when someone said that to me the first time, but it rings through my head. I'm just a cog in the wheel, when you're part of a large enterprise-sized organization. Nonsense. When you walked into my area of a 5 to 10,000 person campus, you knew when you walked into my team's area. We had family photos, right? Put it in quotations because we were family, we were the only ones profitable through the recession. There was a buzz. There were always things happening. We had people bringing in plants, and I mean, it was home and a blast. And we did great work, and we had a lot of grace with each other. So the courage to say, I'm going to make a difference with where I am, and know the consequences. I had somebody say, in an event we did recently talking about HR issues. After 15 years, this person was walked out. Well, if you're in an enterprise-sized organization, let's make it simple. You will be walked out.
Yeah.
I don't care if you're there 5 weeks, 5 months, 5 years, 50 years. You will be walked out one day. That's the way it works. Okay. So what? That's the next step. Got it. Yeah. So what are you going to do in the time that you have, and how do you make that difference? And when you put your stake in the ground like that and build your team knowing you've got their back, they've got your back, and you're making great things happen, that's unstoppable. I don't care how big the organization is. That is unstoppable.
Oh my God, what a great title. Go grab, the second we get off this interview, you go grab that domain name. That is a brilliant title for a book. I love that, Tricia. I think it's great. What a powerful message, because we do feel so sorry for ourselves, right? And it is a game changer when you're able to get up, dust yourself off, and say, all right, let me hold this up. What do I learn from this, right? What's the gold here? What's the opportunity? What are the hidden gems in this experience? That is such a game changer. I just read a biography. I forget her last name now, Nicole something, the young woman who was attacked by a shark, and such a gorgeous mindset that she had, went on, achieved incredible things. None of this feeling sorry for yourself, right? Got up. Okay. I was attacked by a shark. I've lost my leg. So what, right? Where do I go from here? That's a really powerful message. And the last question I normally end with is, what is one of the great, and you've shared so many already, I mean, my goodness, but what is one of the greatest mindset shifts that you've had in your life? Doesn't have to even be on the topic we're talking about, just one of those things that makes you think differently, show up differently.
Here's a good one for you, Cindy. You're going to love this.
Okay.
So when I came into the C-suite network, I had met tremendous success in my industry. I was a disruptor. I was the very first person to take supplier side research, market research, and bring it into client side and monetize it. So I created a $20 million practice out of something that never existed before that in Canada. Wow. And it's so new that I was speaking all over North America because nobody was doing that then. This is, a long time ago now. Yeah. Everybody does it now, but nobody was doing it. So, it was very disruptive. I also had these incredible teams where I was more profitable. I double digited, I had 20% growth during the recession. I demonstrated that my leadership created monetizable success, and I loved it. And so when I came into the C-suite network, I thought, well, I've got this incredible, management style, and I've got this incredible negotiation style. It's very, very inclusive, and I'm bringing things in, and this is my approach. Here's the thing that it was a major shift for me. Just because you are in this space doesn't mean everybody else is, or that it will be appreciated or work in the same way that it's worked for you, even if you've done it your entire career. So that was a major shift for me of understanding. And also I'm in spaces where I'm the only woman again. Yeah. When you look at investment money, when you look at, those kinds of conversations, there are very few women at the table. And we have conversations, when there are women at the table, we have conversations like you and I would have 20 years ago. It's that different. Yeah. And so that's something that was a major shift for me to understand this is where this is, and it's not received in the same way. And I think also when you're moving countries, when you're dealing with groups that have different cultural underpinnings, Canada to the US, people joke, Canada's not that much it's different.
Yeah, I agree.
And so, so what might be considered very progressive and very well received in one country or with one grouping may not at all with another. So your adaptability and the flexibility that you can grab onto in terms of where you're going and what you need to do to create that environment is really, really important. So, and I highly encourage it, new challenges, new opportunities. It's very exciting to be able to make those differences and then also help people to see where some of the things you do want to bring to the table are going to make a really substantive difference, not just because it's nice to do, not just because it's the right thing to do, but because it actually delivers better business results that obviously you can use in whatever ways you decide are appropriate for you and your business.
That's great advice. And I love it. It circles back to what we were talking about earlier, your point that don't show up assuming right? So if you may have a fantastic track record, but when you end up in a new environment, whether it's a new culture, a new business, a new friend circle even, don't assume that be open to grow and adapt. I love adaptability. That was a gorgeous word. Great advice. Well, tell us where people could learn more about you, Tricia. I'm sure people are going to be flocking to find out about the C-Suite Network, which I definitely can vouch for and recommend as well. And Tricia's been doing some great work there since she took over as CEO, but where can they learn more about you?
Thank you so much, Cindy. Well, first of all, csuitenetwork.com. So c-suitenetwork.com, S-U-I-T-E network.com. And in our upcoming events, we have our Celebrates events. So for any of your leaders that would want to join us and co-host with you and I, Cindy, that would be wonderful, wonderful. And you'll be able to meet like-minded leaders that are doing these battles and figuring things out and seeing and sharing what's working, what's not working, and so on. So that would be wonderful. And my personal email address is Tricia, Tricia, at csuitenetwork.com.
Beautiful. So generous. And I will make sure that the contact info for all of that gets up in our show notes. I do encourage you to check it out. It's an incredible group of people who are doing amazing things in the world and come from such a selfless approach. It's a gorgeous environment to make you step into the best version of yourself as well. So thank you so much for joining us, Tricia. You have added so much value. Speaking of adding and being selfless to our listeners here, I really was thrilled to have you and hope to have you again as soon as your book comes out.
Thank you so much, Cindy. I would love to.
And for our listeners, I have no doubt you just got a ton of value from this. There were so many gems in here. As always, I like to recommend you go back, re-listen to it, and please give the gift of sharing as well. There were a lot of really life-changing tips here. If you take any one of them and apply them in your life, you'll find such a profound difference. So give the gift of sharing this episode. Make sure to subscribe if you haven't. And before we sign off, just want to share some ways we can work together if you're looking to up-level your negotiation skills. I've got everything from online to group to my signature VIP or masterminds. I'm looking to start a new council with the C-suite, so be on the lookout for that as well. And it'll help you better leverage your innate power to get more of what you want and deserve in life. And if that's of interest, check out our website at artoffemininenegotiation.com and make sure to check out the book if you haven't grabbed your copy yet, Art of Feminine Negotiation. And that is a wrap for this episode. So until next time, go forth and negotiate your best life on your terms so you can stop missing out and start getting more of what you want and deserve from the boardroom to the bedroom. Until next time, take care.